All righty. Got any kids in the house? Give a little shout out. See, you guys are like, you're too old and cool to kind of give the shout out anymore. And you got even Marty here sitting with his dad. So Marty, give a little shout out there. Exactly. Kids, we love you. We love having you in here, including you, Marty. We think this is great. Hey, kids, did you bring your parents with you? Any kid? Yeah, you brought your parents with you, made them come. Excellent. Parents, raise your hands. Parents, raise your hands. All right. I'm just kind of doing an accounting here. I want to make sure all our kids are numbered with their parents and they're not sitting like on the other side of the balcony or something. All right. Yeah, I know. Your dad's going to be coming out in a second, though. He's got you, so you're good. You're hanging out with Grandpa and Grandma, so that's always cool, right? Now, here's kind of a dirty little secret, is when we become parents, we know everything, right? We kind of know how this works. You know, it's sort of how it works when you're a young adult. You're kind of looking at parents, and you're watching what they do. You're like, this seems easy. I'm not sure what they're so tired about, right? Why are they crying so much? I don't understand that. Because we got it all figured out. And then the baby comes, and we realize we do actually know everything. And we're grateful for that. No, like family can be complex, isn't it? Family can be complex in all its different shapes and forms. Kids, you've never been a kid before, so this is all new to you. Like when you're 6, you've never been a 6-year-old before, and so you're learning new stuff. You've never been a 20-year-old. You've never been a 21-year-old before. So you're trying to figure this stuff out. Parents are trying to figure this stuff out too, but yet we're somehow in charge of what's going on in the home, so we've got to act like we know what we're doing. Relationships in our families, other relationships, life can be really complex at times. And while we kind of wish there was, as young parents, maybe we read the book and you get some advice, and this is how we're going to get our baby to sleep through the night, and this is how we're going to do discipline and all those kinds of things. And then the first shot's fired and the plan goes away. Right? The strategy just goes out the window, and we're grappling. We're trying to figure all this stuff out. That's part of this thing called life, is we want there to be a book that we open and kind of open up the tabs, do here for this, and have the answers right in front of us to make it easy, to make it simple. But it's not easy. It's not simple, is it? Our lives aren't simple. Our relationships aren't always easy, and they're complex. And it's in that moment that we wish that we knew. All right? It's in that moment of complexity that we wish that we only knew, that we knew what to do, we knew what the outcome was going to be. As you hold that little one for the first time, to know what their life is going to be, we have dreams, we have aspirations, we have questions. What is this little guy, what is this little girl going to turn out to be? Right? Your parents asked that question. Your parents wondered, what would you be? How would you grow? Life is complex, and in all this we want to know. I want you to keep that in mind. We're going to be looking at 1 Samuel chapter 28 today, and I want you to kind of read this. I want you to listen to this through the lens of knowing, of wondering, of trying to get answers in the midst of complexity. All right? If it's helpful to you to turn on your phone to 1 Samuel 28, go ahead and use the QR code on the screen. Same for you watching online. You can feel free to turn in your Bible, your paper Bibles if you prefer. Joe's going to read verses 3 through 20 for us as we dive into our passage this morning. And I want you to kind of follow along. So again, use the QR code, turn in your Bibles, and then follow along. We're going to be looking at this passage together. But let's listen to it through knowing and wondering and wanting answers. All right, Joe, why don't you read for us?
Okay. 1 Samuel 28, starting in verse 3. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in his own town of Ramah. Saul had expelled the mediums and spiritists from the land. The Philistines assembled and came and set up camp at Shunem, while Saul gathered all Israel and set up camp at Gilboa. When Saul saw the Philistine army, he was afraid. Terror filled his heart. He inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him by dreams or Urim or prophets. Saul then said to his attendants, "Find me a woman who's a medium, so I may go and inquire of her." "There is one in Endor," they said. So Saul disguised himself, putting on other clothes, and at night he and 2 men went to the woman. "Consult the spirit for me," he said, "and bring up for me the one I name." But the woman said to him, "Surely you know what Saul has done. He has cut off the mediums and spiritists from the land. Why have you set a trap for my life to bring about my death?" Saul swore to her by the Lord, "As surely as the Lord lives, you will not be punished for this." Then the woman asked, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" "Bring up Samuel," he said. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." The king said to her, "Don't be afraid. What do you see?" The woman said, "I see a ghostly figure coming up out of the earth." "And what does he look like?" he asked. "An old man wearing a robe is coming up," she said. Then Saul knew it was Samuel. He bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" "I am in great distress," Saul said. "The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has departed from me. He no longer answers me either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called on you to tell me what to do." Samuel said, "Why do you consult me? Now that the Lord has departed from you and become your enemy, the Lord has done what he predicted through me. The Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hands and given it to one of your neighbors, to David. Because you did not obey the Lord or carry out his fierce wrath against the Amalekites, the Lord has done this to you today. The Lord will deliver both Israel and you into the hands of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. The Lord will also give the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines." Immediately, Saul fell full length on the ground, filled with fear because of Samuel's words. His strength was gone, for he had eaten nothing all that day and all that night.
So that's going to be a little pick-me-up passage. You take that with you as you head out to school this week, right? Oh, wow. It's a very sober passage. It's a very sober story, isn't it? We see this undoing of King Saul.
Which we've been seeing, right?
We've been seeing it progress all the way through.
Yep.
It started with such great promise, right? He's anointed. We're told God's Spirit comes on him.
He's head and shoulders above everyone else.
He's head and shoulders above everybody else. But he insists on doing things his own way.
Yep. That's his theme.
That's throughout his entire life. And he falls further and further and further into this downward spiral that we see here.
Yep.
Yeah. And this particular thing that we're studying today is he just has to know. Mm-hmm. Right? So there's an incredible fear that's gripping him. The situation is complex. He's viewing it as bad, like threatening, and he just needs to know. And the different things that he tried didn't work.
No.
And so he's going for the very thing that he had tried to get out of the nation. Right? So he's got at the beginning that he got rid of all the spiritists and mediums. Mm-hmm. And then when he doesn't, his prayer life isn't working.
No.
He says, I wonder if I should find a medium and a spiritist. That seems right, doesn't it?
Because he just needs to know. He needs someone to tell him what to do.
He just needs to know. He has this insatiable need to know. Mm-hmm. And there's something that we want to pay attention to even in that question.
That's right.
All right? Now, as we look at this story in particular, we want to be able to see that there are some characters that are emerging. So we want to notice some of these characters. One of those characters is, just call him the accuser, right? So the role of the accuser, this is the one that's trying to get our eyes off of God. The distraction, and it can try different ways of doing that, but trying to get our eyes off of God. Another character in this is the mediator. Yep. This is the one that guides the way through whatever complex situation.
Yeah, kind of like an outside person coming in to the story.
Correct, right? Yeah, that outside voice coming
providing
in.
Guidance.
Providing some guidance.
Whether to life or to death.
Correct, but it's going to go one of those two directions. Yeah. And then there's the seeker, the one who is looking for wisdom, the one who's looking for knowledge, for understanding.
Tell me what to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, here's the situation, right or left, which way do I go? How do I do this? And they need the mediator to help them get there.
That's right.
Right? And so we see this happening in this story where Saul actually plays a couple of roles.
He does.
We see in this, right? Yeah. Like, he plays the role of the accuser.
Yeah, he plays the role of the accuser and the seeker.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So he kind of fills two roles here.
So how does he fill that role of the accuser?
Yeah. Well, there's several ways, right? But the key is in his interaction with the spiritist, with the medium. And it's just this passage is dripping with irony. This is the king of Israel who's supposed to be leading people to God, and he's doing everything opposite of what he's supposed to be doing. So let's see here. Where is it? Verse 11. I'm sorry, verse 10. She's like, yeah, no, I can't do this. I don't want to die. You know what decree Saul has made. She still doesn't know it's him. And he goes, no, I swear by Yahweh that you're not going to be punished for this, right? So he's twisting, he's getting her to go against what her gut is telling her not to do, and he's saying, no, go for it. Just do what I say, because I really need this thing done.
And he's using God's name to do it.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So that's where we see this twist in there.
That's right. So he's taking the truth and he's twisting and bending it to his own desires.
Yeah. And he continues to live in this partial obedience.
Correct.
Right? It's just a little bit. So he was supposed to get rid of all the mediums and spiritists.
Yep.
But here he finds this one within the ranks.
Yep.
They're not all gone, are they? Right? So we've seen this in Saul before. He was supposed to destroy the whole nation and doesn't. And right? So a little bit of obedience is disobedience.
That's right. And instead of being gripped by a holy fear of God in the sense of awe and reverence, his fear is actually towards the Philistines, who he has seen God deliver the nation of Israel from several times throughout his kingship.
Yeah.
And yet here he is again, and he's gripped by this fear, right?
That's right. And then he becomes the deceiver.
Oh,
right? So he puts on the disguise.
Is so amazing. Yeah, right. So he puts on the disguise.
Yep.
He actually walks miles behind Philistine lines to get to the medium. So it's just, the whole thing is just dripping with irony.
That's right.
He's so pathetic.
And so Saul is playing this role of the accuser, the one that's taking and twisting.
That's right. So he disguises, he twists, he promises something that he can't deliver on. And then in verse 12, she says, why have you deceived me? You are Saul. And remember what Saul's name means, the one asked for. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Like this declaration just summarizing Saul up in a massive twist of irony, naming him for who he is.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Saul plays the role of the accuser in this. Then the mediator, this go-between, the guide, is the medium. We don't even get her name in this. She's just a medium, or referred to as the woman.
Yep.
And so we see this taking place there, which again, you're not supposed to go to spiritists and mediums. Deuteronomy talks about this. Leviticus talks about this. We see it again in 1 Chronicles. Like, clearly, this is going against God's design to seek knowledge and understanding in this type of mediator.
Exactly, because this was a common practice for the surrounding nations around Israel, and God didn't want them to take up those practices, right? So this is a very hard line here. Don't have contact with the deceased.
Yeah.
And Saul's like, you know what I should do here? I should have contact with the deceased.
I should have contact with the deceased. This will be perfect.
Yes.
Right? Brilliant plan.
Yeah. So he's the seeker and the accuser. She is the mediator here. He can't get what he wants without her doing something.
Yeah. And it's just so fascinating that he seeks out Samuel.
Correct.
Right? So we're told at the beginning Samuel's dead. And so who does he want the medium to bring up?
Yeah.
Samuel.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, it feels a little bit weird to me. Like, we're reading the Bible, and it happens. Like, did you notice that? Like, the Jedi ghost came up out of the ground, and there's Samuel. And Saul is interacting with Samuel. Now, it's not suggesting, hey, we know God said not to, but it works, so go for it. Right? That would be taking the wrong lessons out of the scripture passage.
That's right.
Right, so we don't want to do that. And yet here it's held out before us. And even the awkwardness that we feel as we read that, the confusion that we feel, drives us back further into the passage to say what's really going on
It's
here.
an invitation to go,
That's right.
there's something more here because this is wrong.
That's
Everything
right.
about this is wrong.
That's right. And so then obviously the obvious role is Saul is the seeker, right?
Yeah.
So he's the one seeking.
Just tell me what to do.
Just tell me what to do. Here's the situation. I don't know what to do. Just tell me what to do. All right? Now, this isn't the only place that we see these characters at play. So what we want to do is we want to take this story that we're looking at here, and we want to overlay another story that we've already gotten earlier in 1 Samuel. If we go back to 1 Samuel chapter 25, we're going to see a very similar thing play out here.
That's right.
Joe, we're not going to read the whole passage, but just give us a little bit of a snapshot of what's happening in chapter 25.
So I would encourage you on your own time this week, go ahead and reread the passage we're looking at today in chapter 28, and then take a look at chapter 25. They start with the exact same phrase. And the stories are contrasting David with Saul. There's an accuser, there's a mediator, and there's a seeker. So in this passage back here in chapter 25, we've got David who's seeking, and he's actually seeking supplies and nourishment for his troops. So he sends some of his men, just like Saul sent some of his men. David sends some of his men to a man who's wealthy, whose name is Nabal. His name means the fool. And this guy's wealthy. He has all these flocks, and David's men say, hey, we've been protecting your flocks. We need some supplies, some nourishment. So this was practice in that day and age. Hospitality was a key thing in that culture. So to turn someone away, particularly someone who was helping you, would have been a major slap to the face. And so Nabal not only does this through his actions, but through his words, he defames the very name of David.
Well, and it's interesting, you said his name means fool.
It does, yeah.
And isn't that what the accuser is? Like we think of fool as in like somebody who's like way off the deep end, and it certainly could be. But a fool just takes something that God has given and just goes, burp, just twists a little bit. So here's this beautiful gift of hospitality. And Nabal, the fool, playing the role of the accuser, just a little twist on this thing. But it's dark.
It's really dark. It's really offensive, what he says about David. And so David's men come back, give him this report. And David's response, like we see for the first time a little crack in the armor of righteous David.
Yeah.
And his immediate response is anger. And he says, strap on your swords. It's like ride or die, baby. Here we go. We're going to take out Nabal and his family.
That's right, that.
And on their way to Nabal's family, Abigail, whose name means joyous father or joy of the father, she hears about her husband's actions. So this is Nabal's wife, and she goes, oh, he's living up to his name. So she takes a whole bunch of supplies and goes out with servants and meets David's men halfway and cuts them off and offers him all of these supplies and all of this food. And she reminds him of who God says David is and the promises that God has made to David that he's going to be the king. And this gets David to snap out of this ride or die, and he is humbled. Her humble response invites a humble response from him. And he says, okay, we're done. I realize the error of my ways. This was anger. We're not doing that.
So the humility of the mediator kind of leads towards humility of the seeker.
He responds.
To be reoriented in response back towards God.
Back to God. What? Oh, that's right. That's right.
So he remembers who God is.
Yes.
He remembers who God said he would be.
That's right.
And in humility, his faith is ignited to trust God once again.
Yeah, he's like, Abigail, what you've done is beautiful. Like it has moved me to my core, and I realize the error of my ways. I need to listen to Yahweh. Yeah. Yeah. And so he repents.
Right. And so we see in that story the accuser, the fool, right? The mediator, the guide, Abigail, who in faithfulness is trying to turn David back, and then the seeker, David, who is seeking supplies, and then he's seeking revenge. Right? Yep. So it's not like he's going, what do I do here? But the very thing that was his impulse to do was frankly foolishness. And wickedness. But she turns him in humility, and he responds in that humility. Are you seeing the two stories come together like this? Because they provide a contrast for us, and this contrast is what God is trying to show us. Now, even these two stories are echoes of another story, right? So we capture both of these in 1 Samuel, the one we're looking at today, chapter 28, the one that we just talked through a little bit earlier in chapter 25. But we go way back to Genesis chapter 3. And we see the same story playing out, right? These same characters at play. The accuser, right?
Satan himself. Yep.
Right?
Serpentine.
The serpent was more crafty than all of the other animals. And here's the man and the woman who've been planted in this place, commissioned by God to be fruitful and multiply, to cover the whole earth with the goodness, the blessing, the flourishing, the beauty of God. How do we do this? How do we do this? I don't know what to do, right? They're seeking. So Adam's the seeker.
That's right.
In this. And what we see in the story is the woman that God gave, the partner that God made in Eve, acts as this mediator. And the story goes awry, doesn't it? And brings death into the human story. Brings rebellion into the human story. Brings rejection of God's law, God's love, God's life into the story. Brings sin into the story.
And they were invited to know how to take Eden into the world by walking with God every day in the cool of the garden. This is how, in innocence, like a child with a parent, they would gain wisdom.
Right, so it's not wrong to want the knowledge and understanding. Like they needed that understanding. In themselves, they didn't know.
This is how God's glory is going to fill the earth, is with his human partners, with him in wisdom, taking Eden into the earth. And what the serpent does, what Satan does, is he tempts them at the very point of God's actually holding out on you. And you can, if you just take the fruit, you can actually redefine what is good and what is not good on your own terms. Like you can figure this out for yourself. So he circumvents relationship. And this is really key because the Hebrew word for know, the primary word in the Old Testament is yada, not like yada, 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 but yada, which means an experiential relational knowing. And so by them seeing and taking, what they actually do without intending to, they actually want to have knowledge without relationship. It's the exact same thing that Saul is doing in our passage today, where he repeats this theme over and over and over again in this scroll of Samuel, where he wants to know what to do. He wants to know how to be the best king he can be, but he doesn't want to actually walk with God himself, which is knowledge.
This is really important. Again, we see that echoed in Genesis chapter 3, right? God designed the whole thing to work, that he would walk with humans,
right,
in their commission, that together they would rule and reign over all of creation. But they wanted to know distinct from the relationship with God.
Yeah, that's right. So they wanted to cut off knowing this way, meaning the vertical relationship with God, so that they could simply know what to do down here horizontally with other people, with themselves.
Yeah.
And when you cut off the vertical, good luck with the horizontal. It's going to get messed up.
Yeah. And so then here we've got Saul, who he's historically just wanted to know.
Yeah, that's right.
But not wanted to get into the messy stuff of relationship with God.
No, he has repeatedly demonstrated he's not actually interested in knowing God himself.
So he'd kind of use Samuel as a mediator when Samuel's alive. Then even after Samuel's dead, call up Samuel. He's the one who's going to tell me what to do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's this fractured relationship.
Which ultimately leads to his demise.
It is his undoing. And we see, so what happened after Saul consulted the medium, talked with Samuel, and Samuel says at the end of this, you're going to join me within the next day.
And your sons.
And your sons.
Which is tragic.
Yeah.
Because one of those sons
and they're not like at a park. Like, so Samuel's saying, like, you're about to die. That's what he's saying. You're going to die, and your sons are going to die. Like, it's going to happen.
Tomorrow.
And Saul is filled with fear, and he falls over. He falls over. We've seen this in a few other places, haven't we? We've seen this serpenty idol. Way back in the story, we've got Dagon, who actually is the god of the Philistines, who actually is even portrayed with fishy scales.
Yep.
And the Ark of the Covenant goes into his presence, and the idol falls over.
Yep.
Flat on its face in the presence of God, right? So the serpenty idol falls over. You talked to us about on chapter 17.
We looked at Goliath and how he's kind of in the slot of the serpent.
Right, he's got scale armor, scale
scaly bronze armor, right? And his head is getting crushed. taking us back to Genesis 3. So here is the scaly, serpenty giant falls.
Falls
Face down,
right?
full length.
So we've seen the serpenty idol fall.
Yep.
We've seen the serpenty giant fall.
Yep.
And now we see the serpenty king
Fall.
Yep. Saul has chosen the way of the serpent.
Mm-hmm.
The way of grasping, holding, claiming knowledge without God. That's the way of the serpent.
Which I don't know anything about that personally.
Correct, yeah. Thank God none of us do that, right? No, because the fact of the matter is we all want to know, don't we? We all want to know.
Yeah, like whether it's on a personal level, like just for me, whether it's from me and my family, whether it's for me in the church community, whether it's for me in the nation, tell me what to do so I know what's going to happen so everything can be good.
Yeah.
As I define, here's the key, as I define what's right and wrong.
Right.
It's apart from relationship with him.
We try to do it our own way.
Right.
Yeah.
We see, we take, we eat.
And so it's in the midst of complexity, just tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. Parents, we talked about this a few minutes ago.
I want the handbook.
Parenting is hard.
Right.
And even parenting multiple children, like number 4, just came on the scene for you.
Yep.
And you've never been a parent of 4. So there's some new things with this, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're outnumbered.
You're outnumbered, big time.
Big time.
Yeah. And so you got little Roman.
Yep.
If only you could know. How do I do this?
Yeah.
Who is he going to be? What is his life going to be?
Right.
I just want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we're in the midst of crisis in our lives, when we're in the midst of hardship, do we just want to know? Some of you walk through medical diagnoses. I just want to know the outcome. Like I'm willing to walk through the treatments. I'm willing to do the thing. I just want to know what's going to happen. Or your marriage isn't working. I just want to know. Your job is turned upside down. I just want to know.
Yeah.
You're a single adult. You just want to get married. I just want to know. Like I'll wait it out. If I just knew in 1 year I'd meet the person. If in 2 years I'd meet I just want to know. And so all these situations, I find myself, you find yourself, we find ourselves in. So often we just want to know.
Mm-hmm. And that impulse is just part of being human.
That's exactly right. Like we've been commissioned into this life.
Right.
And it's part of us. We want to know. We want to, what do I do? Mm-hmm. How do we have wisdom, right? Because that's what wisdom is. It's being able to be in a complex situation and to know what to do. But I want the IKEA manual.
I want the flow chart.
I want like, what do I do? What screw goes where? Mm-hmm. Give me the Allen wrench that makes it work. Like, just put it in front of me and I'll put it together.
And here's the tricky
Maybe
part.
Maybe IKEA is a bad example. I don't know.
I think IKEA I think it's a great example. I think it's a great example. But so any of these things that you just listed for us, it's like, well, where's my chapter? Where's my verse?
Right.
What do I do in this exact situation? Sometimes it's there.
Yeah.
But more often than not, life is so complex. It's an invitation to live into the story of Scripture in community.
That's right.
As we discern prayerfully with God.
That's
What's
right.
He inviting us? How's He inviting us to respond?
But sometimes what I'll do, so I'm probably the only one in the room that's done this, with the IKEA furniture, like, God, it's too easy, right? I can do this thing. It's only got so many bolts. It's only got so many planks. I can put this thing together. So I set the instructions aside and I go for it. And then pretty soon, my Swedish named bookshelf goes, whatever Bork is, or it goes, brr. And then what I've got a lovely mediator in my life that I married, the Holy Spirit named Heidi. And she says, well, did you follow the instructions? Well, like they're around. And then you go, and they're under the box, they're under the styrofoam, whatever, so where they're never around. Because like there's even this impulse, not only do I want to know, but I kind of want to know on my own terms. I want to, like I'm not looking to create my own bookshelf. I just want to do it my way. Like, it makes sense. Like, I got this.
And the opposite of that, so Heidi, I'm more like Heidi in this way. Like,
I know, that's why I need you.
I can't throw out the instructions. The instructions are there for a reason. Like, I've got to follow them exactly. So my tendency is like, am I doing this exact thing that I need to do perfectly in this moment? And then I feel overwhelmed, and now I've got this anxiety, and do I just tell me what to do? But maybe
As a matter of fact, sometimes you might even I could actually write these instructions better myself.
Well, sometimes.
Like you got some blanks here, and I could fill in these things. You should have told me this.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right? And so we all attempt to know. We grasp at things. And so sometimes it's, I want to make my own knowing, right? I want to set the instructions aside. I'm just going to do it myself. And so what that looks like in our life is manipulation.
Yeah, particularly relationally,
control.
right?
Yeah. Because relationships are the most complex part about life.
When I don't know what to do in a relationship, I'm going to manipulate, control,
manipulate, right? And so that's how I make my own knowing. I'm gonna bend you to my will, and that's how I will know.
Like, you just got to make it happen.
Yeah, that's right. So I kind of make my own knowing. Sometimes we'll lean into others to help us know, that outside source, that mediator, if you will. So spiritists will sometimes show up in this. And honestly, like, even Christians, like some of you here, you check out the horoscope, right? You check out the horoscope. What's this week going to hold for me? Some of you have even messed around with like seance. So, maybe you're over at a friend's house and you're a kid or something like that, and you do those kinds of things, or you play around with a Ouija board. These are things that God has been really clear about. Don't mess with those things. We don't consult with those things. But even people who are Christians kind of will mess with that stuff, because we just want to know. And so we're looking to this thing out. Now, we may not look for some of those spiritist types of things, but we'll look on social media. I have to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Or a 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah, which we weren't built for as people.
Yeah, so we're taking in all this information, and frankly, it's overwhelming. It makes us grumpy. Like, if you're feeling a little bit grumpy in your life these days, dial down the news input. You'll be a little bit less grumpy in your days, right? From personal experience. And then sometimes we even will look in good and positive ways, like, so spiritual leaders, so it might be pastors, spiritual leaders, it might be the podcast teacher and preacher that we listen to, but we kind of come to them and just tell me what to do, lay out the thing. To tell me what the action is, because I'm not sure how to interpret this myself. And so we will ride on somebody else's spiritual coattails. That's kind of what that could be. So it doesn't mean don't take in good spiritual teaching and those kinds of things like that. Don't have wisdom from spiritual leaders.
Right, or discern in community.
That's right.
Like, that's part of the invitation of the Holy Spirit.
But there comes a point where we can cross that line and we're just riding spiritual coattails.
Correct. Where we're just like Saul, just tell me what to do.
That's right. And we'll even, and you talked about this, we'll go to the Bible and try to use this like an instruction manual.
Oh.
We're like, and there are things that God is really clear about.
Yeah, like, don't go kill someone.
Don't murder, right?
Yeah.
Don't steal.
It's black and white, there's no gray.
There's some black and white, like, don't have any other gods before me. Like, there are things in here that are just really clear. Yeah. And then, let's be honest, there are some things that are less clear. How do you navigate a work relationship with somebody who's a peer, but they're sniping at you so that they can get ahead and do it by stepping on you? How do you do that? How do you forgive somebody who has abused you? What does that forgiveness look like? It's complex. It's hard. How do you raise children? We so want to badly guarantee an outcome.
Right.
But how do we raise children? Right? And so we want to then go back through here and take the things that are intended to give us wisdom as we find ourselves in the story, but we try to go, just tell me the answer.
And some of it's the reality of the pressure of the day and age in which we live. There's so much coming at us so fast.
That's right.
It feels like, well, I can't take time to sit with the Lord and talk about this. Like, I'm barely staying afloat with everything that I've got going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's really even part of how we try to teach when we do this. We want to hold out what Scripture is doing, and we want to even cultivate a little bit of imagination of what it looked like to walk faithfully with what God is showing us. But in most cases, we're not given, here's 3 points to have a better marriage. Here's 8 ways to make sure your kids follow Jesus someday. Here's the 7 ways that you need to X, Y, Z at work. And I've even had people get frustrated at me for not doing that. But that's a part of what we're doing is we're trying to actually shape a body that learns to walk with God and find our wisdom in him, not just little 5-pound bag of Jesus and I'm going to be on my way.
Well, and part of walking with him and this wanting to know, right? Like, there is no formula. When we walk with him, there's not a formula. Like, if you do A, B, and C, or like Saul here, well, I tried this lever, I tried inquiring of the Lord, I tried the Urim, I tried the prophets. Now I guess I'll try a medium. It's not formulaic when we follow him because it's about knowing him.
It's this continual invitation to walk with him.
Correct.
Right? This relationship. And so the confusion is invitation.
Yes.
The struggle is invitation.
That's right.
The suffering is invitation. The victories are invitation. They're invitations to walk with.
That's right.
To be present with, because he is wisdom. And we see this in Jesus, right? So we go into the Gospels and regularly we see this with Jesus. Jesus knew how to walk with the Father. Even when he was about 7 years old. Maybe you remember the story. Maybe you're new enough, you don't even know the story. Jesus was 7 years old, and his family, Joseph and Mary, kind of went to the temple, went into Jerusalem, did their sacrifices, and they were heading home as a big tribe going back to where they were. And they look around like, where's Jesus? Like, oh no, we lost Jesus. You lost Jesus. I didn't lose Jesus. How could you lose your son, right? You ever lost your kid? It happens. And so they go scampering back, and they find him in the temple courtyards talking with the religious leaders, 7 years old, carrying on a conversation with these spiritual leaders. And they say, Jesus, what are you doing? And his answer is, well, come on. Of course you'd find me in my Father's house. Right? So even at 7 years old, he knew what it was to be with the Father. Of course I'm going to be in my Father's house. And then throughout his life, we see this over and over and over. He says, I'm going to do what the Father says to do. I'm going to say what the Father says to say. At his baptism, the Father says, this is my son. I love him. Listen to him. Do what he says. And I'm pleased with him, right? So we get this incredible relationship. But Jesus is not only the model of that relationship, he is the doorway to that relationship.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we have taken ourselves, I want to know, without God, we become enemies of God. Saul was even called in this passage an enemy of God. And Jesus invites us in, and through his death and resurrection, we are reconciled to God so that we can have this relationship and walk with the Father, to dwell in the Father's house. And over, Jesus says, trust me. Jesus says, follow me. What did he say to his disciples? Come, follow me. What does he say to those who are listening? He says, abide in me, rest in me. And those very moments when we're like David, strap it on and let's go, Jesus says, quiet yourself and abide with me. And I will show you that I am the way, the truth, and the life. Right? Jesus shows us the way, and Jesus opens the way. He is the way for us. And even as he taught those who were following him, there's this beautiful passage. I know we're kids, hang with me for a little bit longer. I want to read this part here. It's in what we call the Sermon on the Mount. And there's this point here, which we want to approach as the burp, 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 pull the levers.
What's the formula?
Come up.
Where's the flow chart?
Right? Come up aces and I win.
Yeah.
And this is what we want to have happen, but it's not what's being intended here. So Jesus leads us in. So look at Matthew chapter 7. And I'm going to read it. You can look it up if you want. It's going to be on the screen. Beginning at verse 7. Jesus says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. And again, we want to go with the checklist. Ask like this. Seek looks like this. Knock looks like this. I did all the right stuff. Boom, I should get what I want, right? Let's listen to Jesus. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds. And the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Now, which one of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, we'll give him a snake. A little serpenty there. If you then, though you are evil, even though you're kind of a turd as a dad, even though you know not to do these things, like this is a level of evil that we can't even comprehend. If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, listen to this. How much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? See, the good gift that he's talking about there is wisdom through presence. A father that invites, a father that calls his children to himself. That's the good thing. And so if at any point in your life you find yourself saying, God, I need wisdom, I need you, he's a good father that says, all right, yes. Like, would you love to pray a prayer that God will answer every time? Here it is. God, I want you. God, I need you. God, will you be present with me? And the Father says yes, right? And so the invitation is not to cha-ching, ask, seek, knock. The invitation, as Jesus fleshes this out, the invitation is to be the kind of person that asks, seeks, and knocks. Be the kind of person that turns towards the Father and says, Father, I need you. Be that person. That's what asking, seeking, knocking looks like, right? Be the kind of person that asks, seeks, knocks, that goes to the Father and says, I need to be with you because I'm not sure what to do. Joe, you've got a great story about this. I love this. Like that, I love Joe's kids' stories. Mine are all young adults now. We don't tell stories about them. But there's a story here. I love how your kids do this.
Yeah, this was many months ago. So I was attempting to get work done from home. So if you've got littles and you attempt to do work from home, God bless you. It's a challenge. Yeah. So I had made my rounds to all the kids. At this point, there was only 3 of them. Made my rounds to all my kids. Okay, so look, Daddy's going to be in the bedroom. The door's going to be shut. I've got some work to do. So you get just out when I'm done, you'll know. I'll come out and we'll get to spend some time together. I get in the bedroom. I shut the door. I wisely lock the door. I put my sound machine on. I put my earbuds in with my ambient music to help
the whole
sit
thing.
down. Here we go. Get through my first email. I've got email number 2 up, and there's a...
Yep.
Pull the earbud out. Yeah. Dad, are you done yet? Nope. Not yet, bud. Okay. Earbud back in. Back to that second email. Click, 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 click. Yes. Are you done yet? Nope. Do you remember what I said would be the sign that I was done? The door. Yep. Okay. Earbud back in. Maybe I'll finish this second email. Click, 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 click. Jiggle at the door. Jiggle at the door. Yes. Are you done yet? Nope. Still not done. No. When are you going to be done? Silence. Earbud back in. Finish the second email. Here we go. End send. I did it. I got the second one done. This time, I hear a shh, 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 shh. And I look behind me, and there's a little note that got slid under the door. He's in kindergarten at this point. Like, stringing a sentence together is tough.
Yeah.
Okay. Go pick it up. P-O-O-P-O-O-H-E-D-D-A-D.
That's all the note said.
Poo-poo head, Dad.
Dad. I love that.
And I laughed out loud when I read that.
That's awesome.
He just so badly wanted to be where I was.
See, that's the thing. And your kids just they have an insatiable appetite to be with you. And Silas, shout out to you, Silas. Good job, buddy. Right? Watching this thing. And he just wanted to be with you.
He just so badly
And that door was in the way.
Yeah.
And he had to get to you.
Yeah, and
right?
when I asked him for a recap of the story, he said, yeah, that was before I knew how to pick the lock. Yeah.
So here's the thing. When Jesus is saying, ask, seek, knock, he's saying, be like Silas. Be like the kid who will kick down a door to be with his dad. Be the kind of man, be the kind of woman that says, Father, I just need to be with you. The world is confusing. The world is filled with sorrow. The world is filled with all the stuff that our lives are filled with. Father, I just need to be with you. And even though you as a dad that's fallible and human, though you're a pretty spectacular dad, I love the front row seat to seeing this. You know how to give good gifts to your kids. How much more will your Father in heaven know how to give you good gifts? Your Father in heaven looks at you with delight and joy. He may not always be where you want him to be, doing what you want him to do, but he is the Father who is always watching over. You don't need to clamor. You don't need to strive. You don't need to perform. You just need to be the one that cries out, Father, Dad, I need you. And in that very moment, the Father in heaven says, here I am. Set aside the striving. Set aside the easy answers, the religious pablum, and hold on to the very thing you were created to hold on to. Knowing the Father. For he has made himself known. He has made himself known. And so we read the Bible as spiritual discipline, as spiritual habit, not because it's the answer book and basic instructions before leaving earth. We read it because it teaches us the heart of the Father. We pray not because it's the thing I got to do to pull the lever, ask, seek, knock. We pray because that's how we talk to a Father who delights in being with his children. Be the person that asks, seeks, knocks. What does that look like? You tell me. You tell me. Where do you need God these days? That's precisely the place he'll meet you. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for opening the way for us, that you are our reconciliation, that you have forgiven us for our rebellion and sin. You have drawn us to yourself and you're making us your people. But God, we need you. Reveal yourself to us in the complexities of victories and sorrows. Show us who you are and teach us to walk with you today, tomorrow, and forever. Hear our prayer. We trust your goodness. Amen. Amen. Let's stand together if you would. Here we have the story of Saul. It's the terminal conclusion to his pride. And we've been holding out two different ways to live, the way of pride and the way of humility. The choice is yours. How will you do it? How will you walk? How will you live? As you leave today, may you know his incredible joy. May you know his peace. May you know his love. May you know his abiding presence as you walk with him. For in him and him alone is life. Thanks for being here. Have a great week.